why does that scare you? Like,
Why does that scare me?
yeah.
It scares me because I feel like we are on a path of division. And I feel like as we separate into these groups, LGBTQ, black, white, Mexican, Chinese, I feel like we are creating greater and greater divides in our country. And I think that we're going to hit a boiling point where nobody comes together. And
Yeah.
that scares me.
Okay.
And so I feel like instead of looking at things that we don't share in common, we need to start coming together on common ground. We're all people.
Yeah.
We all live in this country. We're all, or most of us, are struggling and trying to create a better life for ourselves, for our kids,
Yeah.
for the future. And we have problems. We have Ukraine. We have global warming. We have all these other issues. And to continually break people down into these boxes, I think that's a problem. What do you make of mixed race relationships? You think that's fantastic?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down for anybody to love anybody. You can.
That's my approach.
I'm
Why would
kinda-
anybody care what anybody else
yeah.
does?
I'm like, I've liked almost every kind of person ever. So that's how I see everything.
I have talked to people and gotten this sentiment that for some in the black community, it's not, I wouldn't say it's not great, but
Yeah.
the
It's
idea,
weird. There's
it's
a lot
weird.
of things
There's
like
a
that.
little friction there.
Yeah. There are a lot of. It's funny because I feel like that's every culture or every like community. They have their like barriers, like the black community is rough on queer folks too, or like the idea of therapy. And then some folks, yeah, same thing. Like, you don't date outside your race, but it's like, if my father didn't date outside his race, I would not exist.
It's a weird sentiment, especially when it comes to relationships.
I do think there's a lot of work and education to be had by a white parent that has a brown child. And I think it's important that those people look into just, society's set up for brown folks, and I hear this response from a lot of people that were like, I did not even really understand the implications of race until I was in a relationship with a person of color or had brown children. And so I do urge that. I'm like, have all the multiracial babies you want, but do the work that you can like emotionally and mentally support them in the way that's like important for them to be held.
What's the framework for that work?
I mean, quite frankly, I think it takes a lot to understand the role of white supremacy in our country, the role of, implicit bias, dominant culture in general. Like, find out, if you don't know what the patriarch is, read a book and find out what the patriarch is. It's like another really strong controlling factor in our country. And I think there's a lot of social diagrams you can dissect that affect brown kids, and it's European beauty standards, representation, being told that majority of the ways you look is not how, it is changing, right? Like, the media is changing. We have more representation. But this idea that like dark-skinned, nappy-head people don't exist in the media is like not good for the kids that, fit that box or look like that. And just like white defensiveness, like you brought up, people that are going to be mad about exclusive space. Like, why are you mad? There's lots of spaces you can't go to. Are you mad at those spaces too? If you're not, the differing factor, you might need to reflect on that a little bit.
Yeah, again, I think that just comes from, if it was both ways, I don't think people would have a problem with it. I think it would be fine.
Yeah.
If every race could form their own, white people,
I mean,
Chinese
everyone
people,
can. You just
everyone
call
can,
people.
but white people. Everyone can, but white people.
I mean,
there's
you
that
literally
weird stigma with white people.
I mean, just like I made a flyer that said Black exclusive space, people got mad at me. I didn't care, and I held my space that I needed. Like, a white person can do the exact same thing.
You don't think they get shit on way more though? You
I
don't
mean,
think there would be like even
I got
more
shat
pushback?
on. People were like calling us, telling us we're racist, or telling us, yeah, like people will call our phone, or like we gave away school kits and we said for black and brown kids, and someone called us and said pink kids are great too. And I was like, all
Oh,
right.
so you've already heard that sentiment. That's
Oh,
why
I've heard.
you're
We hear
prepared.
it, and that's what I'm saying. It's that the people that have never needed to create space for themselves are the ones that call us, telling us we're bad people because we have to make our own space because there's none for us. That's just truly safe, somewhere that I can like just kick back. I don't have to worry about who's watching me or listening to me or like whatever. But yeah, we've gotten some funny. Well, it's funny because we have like a Google Voice, so I read them. I don't like, and then sometimes I'm
Oh,
like,
you have
oh
a
man.
voice read to you?
Well, like on the Google Voice app, your voicemails are like scripted out.
Oh, okay.
And then you listen to it.
Oh,
But
so you don't have to hear them saying it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can
But
read it.
it's
Oh.
funny to see like how it codes it and then what they're saying.
Yikes. Well, that's interesting that you say they should just go ahead and make it.
I mean, if you have a need for it,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't really care what anyone
anybody
else
says.
says. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that would be harder. I think it would
And then
be
I'm
hard.
also wondering, so I mean, really, like, so you're like, okay, the white people can't do it, but then what? I'm trying to see how I'll phrase this question.
Oh, it's a podcast. You can phrase it however
I
you
know.
want.
Well, not to be right, just to like communicate what I'm trying to say, but like, why does that scare you? Like,
Why does that scare me?
yeah,
It scares me because I feel like we are on a path of division. And I feel like as we separate into these groups, LGBTQ, Black, White, Mexican, Chinese, I feel like we are creating greater and greater divides in our country. And I think that we're going to hit a boiling point where nobody comes together. And
Yeah.
that scares me.
Okay.
And so I feel like instead of looking at things that we don't share in common, we need to start coming together on common ground. We're all people.
Yeah.
We all live in this country. We're all, or most of us, are struggling and trying to create a better life for ourselves, for our kids,
Yeah.
for the future. And we have problems. We have Ukraine. We have global warming. We have all these other issues. And to continually break people down into these boxes, I think that's a problem. And I worry that as that becomes more ingrained into just everyday life in America, our grandkids are going to be so much more segregated than what happened in slavery or in the 60s or pick a time. We're just and it's going to be because we chose to go down that path.
I think you're forgetting that almost all those people you listed are included in more than one of those things, right? Like intersectionality exists. Like, so I'm a Black woman, right? But I'm also a Black queer woman. I'm also multiracial. I'm also technically white. I could check that box. I have a white mother. And so, I belong to multiple of these communities. So even if one of them is having a space that's exclusive, I still exist in more than one space. So I think, you start to think about people sectioning off. I mean, I don't think we'll ever be as extreme as sectioning off or even segregation like we had in the 60s Jim Crow era, because people exist in more than one community, and it's like, what happens to all the middle people, all these folks that exist in all these multiple spaces, like, or even like segregation was like the paper brown test, right? So if you're darker than a paper brown bag, then you're a Black person.
Was that a real test?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You over here saying it's about to be segregation.
Well, to be fair, I don't think it will take that form, but I think it will take the form of all Black schools, all Mexican schools. I think it will take the form of somebody's friend group being primarily made up of one race and them not experiencing other races, whatever that looks like.
Well, I'm like, all those things already exist.
I know, and that scares me.
And if you think about it, that's pretty much how our country was built post-segregation, right? The Reconstruction era was putting all the Black and brown people in shitty ghettos and then allowing everyone else to move to the suburbs. So I'm like, we've already had these exclusive spaces. They're just not in desirable places that other people want to go to, right? We had no one complaining, I want to go live in inner city Harlem, but they won't let me because I'm a white person. Like, no one was saying that because no one wanted to go live in those conditions, right? And it's just interesting now that, you know, these spaces are becoming something of therapy, something of cultural preservation, something where we are relearning the languages that were taken from us. Or, you know, a Mexican school might exist because it's Spanish language, you know, they're speaking Spanish there. And even Fuente Nueva exists in Arcata, right? It's a Spanish immersion school. So they speak in Spanish there. You can probably assume a lot of bilingual families of Spanish descent go to that school, but I know for a fact lots of white children go to that school too, you know? And it's like therefore they are here at this exclusive space because it's language exclusive,
But
right?
it's language exclusive, but it's not saying you can't learn the language and then enter the space. Race specific
Yeah, but
inclusivity is I can't learn to
But
be.
even a black school is not going to be race exclusive. It's going to be exclusive to black history, black knowledge, black Afro-Pan African living. You know, I don't think we'll ever see someone say, no, I'm only taking this race of person.
Even
but
if that was only black people or only Mexicans.
Yeah, but I could see them saying this curriculum is solely based on the black experience, you know, or the Mexican American experience, because say, you know, I could see something like that happening in LA and it being very meaningful, right?
But that kind of embodies my fear, right? Because then if you're only learning one side of history, then you're missing out on.
Well,
on
we've
so
only
much
been
more.
learning one side of history for the
But
whole time.
that was a problem. That was a huge problem, and us now just changing that one side is still a problem. You have to have the whole picture to become a full person.
that would be the goal.
Yeah,
Right.
that-
There we
yeah.
go. I'm telling. Yeah.
But
I'm
I
just,
don't think
or I'm telling you this history. I'm just not excluding anything
that's
this time.
exactly. But I don't think we're going
But,
there. I think
like,
we're just
I'm like,
switching to
Mexican
one
school
side.
sounds lit. They can have Mexican cuisine. You learn about Mexican history. You will learn Spanish, and then you go home to whatever community you're from, and you can implement those things into your life.
That would be
or
awesome.
Not. I'm like, that sounds lit.
But again, it's not race based,
No,
which is the thing.
it would just be like culturally influenced.
Yeah, and you could always learn Spanish. And
Yeah.
going to the school, you would definitely learn Spanish if that's what they're teaching
Yeah.
you, and you would have to pick it up.
Yeah, and when you're a kid, that's the best time to learn a language. And they can do the same thing for so many things. Like, we're supposed to be a melting pot. There should be, you know.
But I think that does hit on my point, is that we're just switching out. Okay, so say we got the white side of history. You could frame it like that. Well, then now we're just switching it out to the Mexican side or the black side. But then what about the Chinese side? What about
I mean, I think
we
you just, you know, tap into those communities to get the resources and tell it as like a full timeline, right? So, like, say it's 1907. These are all the things that were happening on this land in 1907. And that's it. It doesn't, I mean, obviously there's things missing though, because we only have white history because they had the resources to make history, whereas other people that were here either kept history in a different form or didn't have access to do anything. So it's like, I don't know how you fix the history problem, but that, you know, those are the people that had like pen and paper, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, and the winner always writes the
tells
history
the
book.
story. Yeah.
That's just how human history goes.
So, but
yeah,
I don't think. I was like, we got way off topic, but
no, but it's all in theme.
I think we're too far past that. I think too many things intersect and cross over for us to ever fully be like, all of this type of person is here, and all of this person is here, and we're throwing.
But
up
even
whatever.
if you fit into all of those boxes, most people condense it down to a very few primary ones that they really identify with. Like, you're black and white. Do you identify with the white side?
I mean, yeah, my mom raised me.
But would you identify with that? Would you say in equal parts to being black as well? Do you feel like you've got?
I mean, I think maybe I'm a rare case because I have on both sides of my parents. I'm very close to my immigrant that came here. So like my great grandfather immigrated on my grandma's side, on my mom's side, and my dad's an immigrant. And so I feel like I was just culturally connected to, like, my grandfather's from Ireland, his wife is from France, and then my dad is from Haiti. So I'm like, I feel like I just was still immersed in those. My family hadn't assimilated yet, Whereas who knows, you know? So yeah, like if you go to my Instagram, you'll see I have a little Irish flag and a little Haitian flag because I have Haitian heritage and Irish heritage. So
Yeah, that's definitely a mix, right? Irish, France,
yeah, Irish,
and
France,
Haitian.
Haitian, which is funny because France colonized Haiti.
Did they really?
I mean, it's not funny, but
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's
looking
why
back, yeah.
Haitian folks speak French Creole.
Yeah, and they
And then
colonized Canada too, right? Didn't the French do that?
yeah, or maybe like portions of it.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of French influence in Canada, and I'm not sure if that was like their America, you know, like France went there, or
Yeah.
if they what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, history is so fascinating. I definitely do not know enough of it.
Oh
There's just
yeah,
so much out there. I mean, you could pick one small spot on a map and spend your life learning about it.